I am so ready for this 3-day weekend that I have, even though I'm most likely going to spend the majority of this weekend doing homework. Hey guys, I'm here right now to do a book talk slash review of the last book that I read, which I absolutely fell in love with, which is Let's Get Lost, by Adi Alsaid. I got this book from my school library the other day, and I finished it last night, and I just loved it so much. I loved every single part of it, each story, each page. There was some really funny quotes, some really good quotes, some really funny parts, just such good scenes, such beautiful writing, and I just want to talk about it because it was just really, really good, and I think everyone should read it. This book is about 4 characters who all have one thing in common, which is a girl named Layla. Layla is making a road trip around the country, and her destination is the Northern Lights. Along her road trip, she encounters 4 people, and she has some interactions with them, and she has a story with them, and they become friends, and it's just beautifully written, and I just love each of the stories. Hudson is from Mississippi, and he meets Layla the afternoon before his big college interview at the University of Mississippi to ensure that he has a full scholarship. Immediately, he falls head over heels in love with Layla and just loves her so much and wants to spend time with her. So he sneaks out with her instead of going to sleep the night before this huge interview. Bree is from Kansas City, and she meets Layla as she is hitchhiking because she is a teenage runaway who has been away from home for 9 months after her parents just died, and she's supposed to be getting taken care of by her sister. Bree and Layla meet while Layla picks her up while she's hitchhiking, and they start doing some illegal things. They start stealing, and they just get into a crazy adventure, and that's their story together. Elliot is from Minnesota, and Layla meets him the night of his prom, where he just confessed his love to his best friend Mirabelle, but Mirabelle doesn't like him back. So Layla agrees. First of all, Layla hits him with his car, hits him with her car, and that's how they meet. And Layla agrees to help Elliot get the girl back and help him get her to fall in love with him. Sonia is from, I believe, Oregon, but we meet her in Canada, in British Columbia, the night before her ex-boyfriend's sister's wedding. Sonia's boyfriend died I don't know the time frame before the story, but he's dead at when Layla meets Sonia, and it turns out that Sonia has a relationship with the bride's husband's brother. So Sonia is trying to keep this relationship a secret from her ex-boyfriend Sam's family because she doesn't want to hurt their feelings, but the night before the wedding, her and her new boy, Jeremiah, get into a fight, and Sonia meets Layla after that fight, and Layla picks her up, and they start driving, and they leave Canada. She's driving Sonia home when she gets a phone call from Jeremiah that she still has his jacket, and inside the jacket are the rings for the wedding. But there comes a conflict, and the 2 of them have to struggle to get back to Canada on time for the wedding. Finally, Layla arrives in Alaska to see the Northern Lights, and the reasoning behind her trip is revealed, and it's just crazy. It's something that I definitely did not expect to see coming. The reason that she was actually behind the trip, no hint of this is given at all throughout the story. In fact, she introduces herself differently to each of the 4 people that she meets along this journey. By the end of the book, I believe it says that she was on the road for 2 months. So she doesn't really give much of herself up to the other people, but she lets them tell her their life stories. Layla arrives at Alaska, where she's staying at a camping site, and she meets this little girl named Dee, and after telling Dee her story, Dee decides to throw her a party, so they have a party, and Layla is really touched, and it's just a nice thing, but then there's conflict at the party, of course, and Layla is constantly thinking about Hudson at this point. Throughout the entire book, when she's with Bree, Elliot, and Sonia, she gives hints about Hudson, but doesn't really talk to them deeply about Hudson and the rest of her life and her secrets. But then, she fell in love with Hudson. Hudson's the only story that at the beginning of the book doesn't really have a happy ending. When Layla interacts with Bree, she fixes an aspect of Bree's life, and she has a happy ending. When she's with Elliot, she helps Elliot get the girl, and he has a happy ending. And when she's with Sonia, she helps Sonia with her conflict, and Sonia gets a happy ending too. But Layla and Hudson are the only 2 who don't really have a happy ending by the time Layla arrives in Alaska. So those loose ends are tied up as well. And it was just such a good story. I love the way that Layla interacts with these four characters and how the book isn't, though the book is really about Layla and her journey, it doesn't really spend any time talking about Layla until the very end of the book. It's really about the stories of the other four characters. The story's told in third person. In each chapter, like, it goes from Hudson, Bree, Elliot, Sonia, and then Layla, and we really just get a focus on who that like section of the book is about. So though Layla is there and she's a main part of the story, she isn't really like the central focus until the very end. It's more about the characters like developing into themselves and what they're doing. It's kind of like a book of mashups by different authors. Like if you think about Let It Snow by like John Green, Lauren Miracle, and one other author whose name I forgot. Like the characters all weave into the stories, but and then like at the end they're all together. But this one, it's more like the characters all have their own stories, and Layla's the one character who goes through all of that. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I believe I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. It's definitely the best book that I've read in 2015 so far. It's the 4th book I've read this year, and I just really, it blew me away. I liked it so much more than I thought that I would. It was just great. I have nothing bad to say about this book. I really, really loved it. Yeah, that was my review and book talk about Let's Get Lost by Alsaid. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you read this book. Have a great rest of the weekend, and a great next week, and a great 2015.